Welcome back to the Daily Dope. I'm Brand, your host. And yeah, I was talking about 3 planks of reefer madness. And man, it seems like if you watched all my videos that I've ever made, you're probably getting sick of hearing me talking about all this shit. The reefer madness is back. Well, this one is just baffling beyond all baffleness. So we all know that Canada's in the mood for legalizing marijuana, even though they keep acting like it's happening too fast or it's too soon, and they got all these other reasons that they got to slow down and be careful what they do. Meanwhile, they're busting the shit out of everybody and basically setting up a state-run pharmacy style shit in certain areas. And it's just, I don't know, it's just starting to look like something is afoot, something in the background's going on, something more sinister than they're letting us know about with headlines like this. Canada looks to spend $274 million to bolster cannabis-related law enforcement. So I hear about this too. Everywhere where marijuana becomes legal, like Maine said it, Massachusetts said it, Nevada said it, California has been kind of hinting about it. But the police in places where marijuana is getting legalized, they're fucking freaking out. They don't know what the fuck to do. They're like, man, holy shit, this is most of the shit we do. This is most of the reason why we get all these funds from the federal government and all these neat new toys like armored personnel carriers and fucking grenade launchers and shit. Yeah, no shit, grenade launchers. Why do you need all this extra money now that you legalized marijuana? I have no idea, man. I always thought that a legalized situation means there's less cop involvement, or as in no cop involvement. Like, why would there be? There's no cop involvement in the alcohol realm. Like, first of all, there's no fucking possession limits on alcohol. So a person, an individual, can buy a whole truckload of alcohol and just drive around town willy-nilly. But if you get caught with those alcohol bottles going into the wrong hands, like a minor, for example, you only get like a fine, and you might lose your alcohol, you might not. Depends on how good your lawyer is. You had way too much weed than you're supposed to have, then they measure it by however much it is, and depending on where you are in this country, you could get prison time and felonies for having the wrong amount of marijuana. Whatever, here's the other plank of reefer madness. When you talk about the reefer madness that they use today, that still works, still gets them, their prohibition, still makes people scared that something's going on with that marijuana. Because people that are ignorant, they don't smoke marijuana, they don't fucking know gateway theory, they don't know nothing about teens smoking weed. They don't know that most people probably started smoking weed when they were a teenager, and that most of the hard trouble that people get into are when they're teenagers getting caught with it. Ain't that about a bitch? Because it ruins the rest of your life to have a record for it. That's what they don't understand. Canada prepares, all right, let's read this. Canada intends to commit upward of $250 million to deter drug-impaired driving. That's the other one. In a diversion in preparing for national cannabis legalization, the country's public safety officials announced Friday. So are you fucking kidding me? You need $274 million towards law enforcement effort and border efforts such as training, research, and policy development. Of that $274 million, $161 would be used for training officers on identifying signs of impairment, increased access to drug screening devices, which they don't even have yet, raising public awareness, and hiring additional enforcement officials. Oh my God. So there is no scientific way to tell how impaired somebody is on cannabis, because there's no way that you can say somebody is impaired on cannabis like you would be if you were impaired on alcohol or morphine and can no longer function good enough to drive a vehicle. Because cannabis simply doesn't fucking do that to you. That would be alcohol. So the drug screening devices I've read where there's like companies that are doing $10-20 million in research and development trying to fucking come up with this shit. They still don't have it, man. Because there's just no way you can do this. You can't, I mean, first they thought, okay, we could test the nanograms in the blood or the nanograms here or there, see how much THC is in the system. But then you realize that not everybody gets the same intoxication, or that's not even what it is, the same buzz or whatever you want to call it, impairment. Not everybody gets the same level of anything off of the same nanograms or whatever in the blood. It's just not a very good way to measure it. And plus, you know, they make these arbitrary limits like, well, this looks like a good idea. How about 5 nanograms? That's the limit. No, it's the fucking stupidest limit I've ever heard of. Someone like me could have 5 nanograms in my blood a month after I stop smoking weed. So no way, Jose. The remaining 113 million would be doled out over a 5-year period to Public Safety Canada, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the Canadian Border Services Agency to develop policy ensure organized crime does not influence the legalized system and keep cannabis from crossing our borders, officials said. Now, I kind of a little bit believe that, but at the same time, I see a bunch of cops wondering where their bread and butter is going to be, and this is kind of like a payoff money to be like, shut the fuck up. We want you to go away. Please just go away. I don't understand this. It's like all of a sudden the police everywhere are acting like the only reason that they have to exist is marijuana. Are you fucking kidding? There's so much other reasons why you exist. And we need you to be those things, not fucking somebody riding around micromanaging whether or not people put the wrong substances in their fucking body. That's just absurd. Quote, I have crossed our country discussing legalization and regulation of cannabis with various stakeholders, including municipal and police officials. Why are they stakeholders in the cannabis industry? Because the regulations are going to rely on them being code enforcers and shit? It's just, it shouldn't be. It should not be. There should not be police involvement in a legalized, regulated marijuana market. Can we just stop with that already? Bill Blair, parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, said in a statement, quote, they made it clear to me that they need more resources for training tools and technology to make our roads and highways safer from the scourge of impaired driving. Oh, come on. The scourge of impaired driving. Today's announcement is proof that our government has listened. The scourge of impaired driving. Basically, the Attorney General of Canada. So, you know, this totally acts as if, like, because you guys are going to legalize marijuana, instantly everybody's going to be like, oh, time to go smoke some weed and drive around. First of all, you act like legalizing weed means everybody's going to start smoking it, and therefore there's just going to be a lot more people that are going to be on the road after smoking weed. Scourge of impaired driving. What you want to do, this is an investment, because you're like, we can get a test thing that we can get, and we can teach a bunch of cops how to fuck with it so that we can make sure we get people, all right, that guy looks stoned, let's give him a test, you know? I mean, you act like a bunch of Scooby-Doo looking vans are going to be driving around, just smoke coming out of the window, and that, you know, they're going to be crashing into everything. Keep your roads safe. The scourge of impaired driving. How do you think that a scourge of impaired driving is going to happen? Just because all of a sudden marijuana is legalized. Does that mean, like, all of a sudden people smoke marijuana? Like, before it was legalized, nobody smoked marijuana? I mean, it is Canada. Most people smoke hash. They've long since been burned out on marijuana and don't even bother with it. The financial commitment, which would need parliamentary approval, comes as part of the government's effort for a zero-tolerance approach for those driving under the influence of cannabis, officials said. As in, you are going to act like you're going to be like these people that have these tests where it's like, okay, 5 nanograms and we're going to bust you. So just give me a break, man. I can't even believe we're having these conversations. Like, doesn't anybody care about real statistical data, science, and doing real driving tests? Actual with cameras and police officers and driving instructors and people that are willing to drive while they're stoned in that environment that I just laid out. Oh, guess what? That's already been done like 3 fucking times by news agencies. One in Colorado, one in Arizona, and one in Washington. So if you don't believe me, go fucking look it up on YouTube or something, man. It's just unbelievable. And I'm sure if I had like more of a following or my videos made the rounds more like they should, because really I look for this kind of shit, man. I'm one of the only people that even talk about this shit. I want more people to talk about. I wish everybody fucking made videos like this, because then it would be like more people would be reached by this propaganda that we have. Our propaganda is the truth. The truth is you could smoke fucking 10 joints and go driving down the road and be just as good as if you smoked one or didn't smoke any. And I'm so sick of this shit where they act like, everybody's just a great driver. Everybody can drive like pros out there until they start fucking doing these substances, which isn't even the case. I mean, they don't just pull over everybody that's driving down the road one day and just randomly test everybody and be like, oh, okay, we know that basically it's pretty safe out there because 99% of all these drivers out there aren't smoking weed or drinking anything or popping any pills. No, I got news for you, man. When you go out on the road, I'm thinking a lot of people, a lot more than even I think or you think, are driving under the influence of something. And when it comes to cannabis, I don't think it's that you're driving under the influence of cannabis. I just think that you smoke some weed and at the same time you're driving. What are you going to do, It isn't like alcohol, and it doesn't compound like alcohol. Alcohol is like, okay, if you drink 2 or 3 beers, you're definitely going to fucking not be good to drive. It doesn't work like that with weed. And weed wears off really fast. Alcohol, you drink 3 or 4 beers, you better sit there for like 3 or 4 hours before you try driving. So here we go, and thanks Alicia Wallace again, one of my favorite writers from the Canvas. Felt like kind of a non-biased approach to this. I'm really upset that these 3 planks of reefer madness still guide public policy to the effect that it does. I mean, anywhere from scaring the shit out of parents so they go vote against legalizing marijuana in Arizona to tying it in with the other reefer madnesses to overall just have somebody like a Chris Christie speaking and engaging with the public. He's on radio shows and all this shit all the time, and he basically just says this shit like it's everybody believes it common knowledge. And the sad part about it is that because there's nobody out there talking about it, and there's nobody out there with honest conversation, when somebody like CNN or somebody there like NBC or somebody has people on there and they're talking about marijuana, the last thing you're going to see is somebody that has the opinion that I got or want the facts to back it up or any of that shit about how they really don't have statistics to back them up or any scientific anything to back them up. Whereas on our side, we have all kinds of things that say, no, these numbers haven't gone up. No, you don't get fucking wasted when you smoke some weed, so it isn't dangerous as fuck to go driving like it is on alcohol or morphine or whatever. So I don't know, man. Just please, Canada. Canada's basically demonstrating how not to legalize marijuana through the legislative process. So please take heed of that shit. when you're looking at places like Connecticut or Maryland or whoever else is talking that shit, like even Vermont, even as liberal as Vermont is, I don't know, man. I don't know if the state should be trusted with legalizing marijuana. All right, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you stumbled on this shit and you like what I'm talking about, you like my opinion, check out some more of the videos. Subscribe if you like it. And share that shit. Later.